Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Ziliaks, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. And today our guest is Maureen Normann, an Army veteran, and for full disclosure purposes, my sister, my older sister, much older than
You're the older one. I'm the more mature one.
I see. Okay. I always get confused about that. But she has brought with her today a wonderful service dog, Prince. And so I thought we'd take some time to explore service dogs and the benefit of service dogs for veterans and how you came to have Prince and what it means to have him in your life. I can tell you from my experience just being around Prince that he's a pretty chill dog. He doesn't seem to be interested in anything other than you. Which is, I guess, what you want in a service dog. But let's begin by just telling us briefly about your military background. I know you were in the Army Air Corps or
What?
something.
I enlisted into the Women's Army Corps.
Oh, okay, that's something like that. I didn't know. It's a long time ago. It was
ancient.
Yeah, it's been disbanded, hasn't it?
Yes, it was disbanded in 1978.
Oh.
We became regular Army, whatever that means.
Yes.
And so I was in both the Women's Army Corps and the U.S. Army.
Okay. And when did you enlist?
1976.
Okay. So you enlisted, and what was your first duty assignment?
Well, it took a long time to get to the duty assignment because first I had to go to Monterey, California for a year and a half to learn Russian. And then I went to San Angelo, Texas to Goodfellow Air Force Base.
Okay, yeah.
Where, the food is better because Air Force people prioritize their food.
Yes, of course.
And they're cushy barracks.
Nice. Air conditioned, I bet.
Oh, it had to be in Texas. Oh, God.
No.
So I was there for a few months. And then I was sent to Fort Meade to do more intense training into the details of this MOS. And then finally I was assigned to West Berlin.
Okay. And how long were you there in West Berlin?
2 years.
Oh, okay.
2 years.
And follow-on assignment?
No, I left.
You separated?
I separated.
So by that time, your 4-year enlistment was up.
Yes.
So you really only were on the job for 2 years.
I know. But in those 2 years, a lot happened.
I guess so. Yeah, that's true. Wow. So that's a lot that the Army puts into a soldier just for 2 years in return. I guess they were hoping you'd re-up and stick around for a while. Was there a re-enlistment bonus?
I don't remember us having bonuses then, but by that time, I had already had 2 traumatic brain injuries and I had fractured some vertebrae in my back.
Right.
So re-enlisting wasn't really
Yeah. Okay.
a great idea at that point.
Were you medically retired? No.
No, I don't think that was a thing then.
Oh, okay. So, all right, you separated and started on a path where you went to college and you went over to England, I think, for an advanced degree.
Yes.
Came back and started working for the U.S. government.
Yes.
And 15, 16 years doing that, working for Uncle Sam?
Probably, yeah, including time spent on the Hill. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so, and then took a job with your church.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Along the way, you were receiving treatment at the VA, and they gave you a rating. Is your rating 100%?
No, it's less than 100.
Okay.
It's over 50. I don't know the exact number. I should, but I don't.
Yeah. And at some point decided that maybe a service dog was right for you.
Yes, it was actually my primary care doctor at the VA who suggested that I might benefit from having a service dog.
Okay, so now you that idea is planted. And so what's the process then? Do you start thinking, yes, no, maybe, I don't know? Do you talk to somebody?
I talked to my other providers and they were all very supportive.
Okay.
Because in addition to having the military connected disabilities. I have multiple sclerosis, and my case is a progressive disease. And so I had complications of, movement and mobility. But I also needed a dog with the skills of a TBI dog as well.
Okay.
But it all kicked off as to where I would go to get this dog. I did a little investigation, but I went to an open house at the Warriors Retreat.
Yes.
One of the very first ones, I think. It was still a construction site.
Right.
We just kind of crept around on what was available to creep on. But before I went in, there was a woman outside and she had a puppy. And I asked her about service dogs. And
So the puppy had a
like a little
vest on.
vest. Yeah. Service dog and training.
Okay.
Really, it was a puppy.
Right.
And so she gave me her card, and the organization was Veterans Moving Forward. And she gave me the card is actually a business card of the dog, not hers. So I kept that, and I thought, well, this might be a good resource. And I thought, you just call them up and say, I'd like a service dog, please. And you drive over, maybe a few weeks later and pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick it up.
Be ready to go.
No. They trained the dog for the first 2 years.
Oh.
And the matching occurs 3 months before the dog is released. You interview with the dog, which is something I'd heard, but I thought was just kind of they would say that so that you would feel a bond.
Yeah.
But in reality, I was at an event and a guy came up to me, another veteran, and he said, yeah, I interviewed with Prince, but he rejected me.
Oh.
And I was a bit like, I'm so sorry. Prince, thanks for waiting. But I think he waited because he is the puppy I met at the Warriors Retreat open house.
Oh, wow. So it came full circle.
Yes.
Wow. That's something. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. And so now you meet him at what point? 3 months, you say, before
You
he
interview
graduates,
with the dog about 3 months. It's a bit of a dance, having the dog available at the time that you are able to take the dog. So we did the interview at 3 months, and you basically sit in a room about like the size of your office. And you're talking with the canine team, but Prince is in the room and he's moving around. And, he came over and I petted him a little bit. I didn't want to go all ham on him. And then he wandered off again. And then he came back and we're chatting all this time about the kinds of things that I would need a dog to do and the kinds of skills that Prince has.
Right.
But really, they're watching Prince's body language. And so the next time he came over, I petted him for a long time. And then he lay down at my feet and I was petting him. And then he rolled over on his back and they said, well, that was it.
Okay.
They called me the next evening. And I went in for my medical meeting with them where they have their medical advisors on the board sit down. You supply all of your VA records. You get letters from all your VA doctors. Because Veterans Moving Forward only trains and supplies dogs to disabled veterans of any era.
Okay.
And their disability is not necessarily has to be service connected.
Okay.
You're a veteran who has the disability. And then they tell you, yes, you're a match. They do a home visit just to make sure your house is safe.
Right.
And then they gather information from you to train the dog in the last 3 months to do specific tasks. For instance, they wanted to know, how does our refrigerator open? Does it have 2 doors, 1 door? Is it on the left? Is it on the right?
Okay.
And so they get into the nitty gritty of what's the best way to work with you.
But then they just don't come out and drop him off. There's a lot of working with them, working with you, all of you working together for some time, right?
Right. If they place dogs all over the country, so if you're in California, then you come to Veterans Moving Forward for 1 week of training, and then you fly home with your dog. Now, what they used to do was to hook you up with like a local dog trainer. And that person would kind of work with you, in your environment.
Right.
Now they decided they're not going that route. If there are serious problems that need to be dealt with, they'll come to you, even if you're in California.
Okay.
And they'll see, because they will have visited your house.
Yeah.
They will see, with the challenge that you're struggling with.
What the obstacles are.
Figure out a way to make it work.
Okay. And so now when was this? How long ago was this? Well, how long have you had Prince? 5 or 6 years?
No, 7
Wow.
or 8 years.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So it was a good while ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Does he ever go for refresher training or anything like that?
No, if I have a problem, I can call them up and go out to the training center
Okay.
and say, hey, suddenly he's doing this. What can I do?
Okay.
Or I need him to figure out how to do Nordic walking with me,
Okay.
work with my poles and things like that.
So as things change in your life, then there could be special adaptive training for Prince to be able to continue to assist you when things change for you.
Yes. We're now kind of at the point with his age and some health challenges he's had of thinking about a transition to a dog that I call Prince's friend,
Right?
who would come alongside Prince and begin to take over the heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. And this dog has received a lot more mobility training
Okay.
because my balance requires me to be able to grab something if I need to in a harness. And, it's a little more involved.
And this dog is named
Polly,
Polly. That's right. Okay. I remember that. Is she? Okay. Is she about the same size as Prince?
she's actually taller than Prince. She's a field-bred Labrador Retriever.
Okay. That's a different dog.
Yes.
For our listeners, what type of dog is Prince?
Prince is an English Golden Retriever. So English Goldens have boxier heads, shorter snouts, and they're all what they call a vanilla cream color.
Okay. Right.
They're also beefier, more muscular than American Goldens.
And Polly is just a pure Labrador Retriever.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they make the distinction in referring to Polly as a field-bred retriever, which means that they're breeding these dogs to work hunting or, retrieving. So their physical makeup is different from what the AKC would say. This is what your dog has to be like to show.
Okay.
So he's not a show dog.
Not a show dog.
He's a field-bred dog.
Okay.
And she's very tall. I was very surprised. She's taller than Prince.
Oh, okay.
Just really long legs.
Now, do you think that that's going to help you with her being taller?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For mobility and stability issues.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably the same onboarding process. So it takes a couple years to train her.
Right.
And then 6 months or so to work her in. Now, I imagine working in a second dog is a whole different ball game.
Well, we have been out to the training center, Prince and I, where he's hung out with Polly. They get along super well.
Okay,
They're
important.
just chill. And I think the challenge is going to be more an emotional one for me and to some degree for Prince. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the first day I walk out of the house with a different dog.
Well, giving Prince a break,
Yeah, but I just don't know how he'll experience that. Just the other day, I was going to drive someplace and my husband wanted to be dropped off. So I was in the driver's seat and I needed to move the car slightly so that he could get in. And so he was holding on to Prince because Prince hadn't gotten in the car yet either. And I just started the car and pulled up a few feet and he said he could feel Prince kind of like,
hey, where are you going?
right, what are you doing? I have to be with you.
Okay.
And he was better once he got in the car, but he was a little,
Right.
sus.
So what would you say to veterans that have maybe thought about a service dog but can't really figure out how it would fit into their life or what the benefit might be from a service dog?
I think there are lots of benefits by having any dog, but also a service dog. gives you a different kind of companionship because the bond is so strong. We're always looking for each other. We're always catching each other's eye. You know, we have our own little rituals that we do and our ways of doing everything. In my case, Prince is very big on routine. He was trained to stick to routine. He can adapt that routine, but it needs to be a consistent adaptation then.
A certain thing done during the morning.
Right.
And then, okay. Yeah.
So, for instance, his routine gets me into routine. He has breakfast every day at 8 o'clock. It consists of 2 different courses. But after that, he gets his vitamins. And he will not leave the kitchen until I've given them to him.
Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes I'm starting to do something and he's looking at me like, I'm just waiting here. You're going to realize in a moment why. I'm like, oh, sorry, you need your vitamins, you know. He has ideas about when I should be taking naps. You know yourself from when we've gone camping with him that if I'm too tired, he will shove me onto the picnic table bench.
Yeah.
So that I can rest.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is to figure out the match with a good service dog organization. Some service dog organizations specialize in PTSD dogs, and they train those skills. They refine them to the individual veteran, but most of what they do is PTSD.
Right.
So you really have to talk to different organizations and get an idea of what they offer.
Right.
What type of dog? How does it all work? Does the dog, some people get a dog who's only 6 months old and then they do the training like with them or something.
Right.
At Veterans Moving Forward now, the service dog puppy raisers, bring the dogs to the training center in the morning and pick them up at night. So the dogs like commute and they're there all day. And they're either individually training or they're having a group training or they're having crate time. And so I think it's very important to say also that Veterans Moving Forward provides the dog to the veteran at no charge.
Right.
I am of the opinion that if you're a disabled veteran, you should not have to pay for a dog.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if you go to someone who says, I can get you a dog and it'll just be a few months, you just have to pay me $35,000 and you can have a dog. That is not going to be a dog you want.
Right. What would you say is the minimum time to properly train a
I would say
service?
2 years.
2 years. Wow.
Yeah, the first 6, they come at 8 weeks old from the kennel. And then for the first 6 months, they're doing the kind of puppy training you would do for any dog. And they get their AKC Good Citizen Award.
Okay.
And that's where they start building their portfolio of recognitions. They continue to work on after that, they're, of course, refining the puppy dog skills, but they're starting to build in service dog skills.
Right.
Picking things up. Prince can pick up a business card off the floor.
Wow. I can't even do that anymore.
I know. Anything I need picked up, he will do either spontaneously or he will look at me like, you want that? And he's very intuitive too, which is a big thing. He will wake me if I nap too long, for instance. In the polytrauma system of care, you're not supposed to nap at all. So
Oh, wow.
he doesn't give me
You're kind of an outlaw when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you just fall asleep.
Yeah, I know that.
And he'll give me a shove to going on more than say 15 minutes. Be
Right.
Like, hey, keep moving.
So we've looked at dogs for veterans with PTS issues. Certainly, probably veterans with traumatic brain injury,
Yes.
mobility issues,
Right.
and any other kind of situations that you could think of.
Well, there are dogs that are hearing dogs, and they hear what you cannot hear,
Okay.
in the sense of like an alarm going off or something like that. They will alert you to the fact that someone's at the door or whatever. I know there are also dogs that provide medical alerts.
Right.
So if someone has epilepsy, which can go along with traumatic brain injury, the dog can tell them a seizure is about to happen and, get them in a safe position.
Right.
And stay with them while the, seizure is going.
Right.
And then depending upon what they've been trained to do, either look for help or just stay by the veteran's side. Yeah. Prince has been trained to stay by me if I fall. And although I had 2 traumatic brain injuries on active duty, I've had many, many more traumatic brain injuries. And specifically, the great equestrian catastrophe of 2013, when I discovered that therapeutic riding wasn't always therapeutic.
That when you fall off the horse.
You fly off the horse in my case. I don't remember anything because...
Right.
Yeah. I don't remember falling. I don't even remember arriving at the stables, let alone riding.
Unfortunately, that was pre-cell phone video cameras. Otherwise, we would have had something to show at Christmas for sure.
Yeah, if they'd had like security videos that the...
You would have been a TikTok sensation.
Oh, yeah. I would.
Wow. So, yeah. And I think it's important to point out, too, that the length of time to train the dog is, in many cases, I'm sure they're being trained for multiple things.
Yes.
Because rarely will you find a veteran who has mobility issues who doesn't have PTS or doesn't have TBI. Usually they have all of them.
Yeah.
And they're going to need help with various aspects of their lifestyle at home and work, hopefully. But I can see where it would take a couple of years to train. Now, I think it's important too, like you said, that a veteran shouldn't pay for a dog, and I think that's a real red flag.
Yes.
When somebody starts to talk about the cost of a dog, and they're expensive. I mean, it's a couple of years of training. The dogs themselves, Semper Canine uses a lot of rescue dogs. Chris and Amanda over there weed out a lot of dogs as they try to find the right one. But yeah, I would say, just keep looking. If you run into somebody who says they can provide you with a dog in either a very short time, and I know you're anxious, and when you hear for the first time that, yes, you would really benefit from having a service dog, but, oh, by the way, it's going to be a couple of years, I could see where it could be attractive if somebody says, well, I can get you that dog for $10,000, not the full price, I'm going to give you a break, and we can get that dog to you in 6-8 months. So you got to fight that urge, and you just got to say, that's just probably not going to work.
Yes.
It's not going to be reputable. You really want to reach out to the companies, organizations that are well known in the community. Now, here in Northern Virginia, of course, Veterans Moving Forward, Semper Canine, MK9, Caring Angels. There's a number of very good organizations that provide dogs for veterans, and any one of them really, none of them charge, and any one of them can either help you get a dog or certainly refer you to another organization that might have one that fits your needs better or something like that.
It's always good to, when you contact an organization, to ask if there are any veterans who currently have dogs from that organization that you could talk to.
Yeah, sure.
And that way you can get a sense of what the ongoing support is like, how the dog's working out. Is this,
Yeah.
And an organization that has no one to refer you to.
Yeah, that's another red flag.
Yeah,
right
that's
there,
a little, yeah. I mean, not everybody wants to be called and asked about their dog and everything, but there's got to be a couple people.
Sure.
I mean.
Well, it's like with our organization, the Veterans Warriors that come and stay with us, they're our best ambassadors. And I've got to believe that if I know folks who have dogs from these organizations, and they love to talk about them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that would be a real red flag if they, we're concerned about our veterans' privacy and start making all sorts of excuses as to why they really don't have any reference that you can check like that. So tell us about what's the best way to approach an organization So you're going to either email them or call them. But what information should you have as a veteran ready and prepared to tell them about your needs for a service dog?
Well, the first contact, like you said, is usually email or phone. Sometimes there'll be like a form you can fill out on the website to say you're interested, and then they'll contact you and you can kind of ask them your questions and so forth.
Right.
Eventually, they're going to want to see your medical records. They're going to see reports from occupational therapy or physical therapy.
Right.
So they can really understand what it is you need, and then they can train the dog properly. You'll need your DD-214. You'll need any, disability paperwork you have. And I would suggest when you're thinking about this at all, you start a little savings account. Mm-hmm. Because even though the dog is free,
right,
there's dog food, there's dog bags, there's supplies and things that you will need to have to take care of your dog.
Vet services.
Yes. Oh, Lord have mercy.
They're expensive. They're just as expensive as regular people medicine.
And sometimes they're more expensive. Prince had to have an MRI, and his was more expensive than my MRI. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, would you recommend somebody get insurance, pet insurance for their... Do they even insure service dogs?
Well, there used to be... Pet insurance used to be kind of a...
Yeah, kind of a scammy kind of thing.
Yeah. But what I'm hearing now is that there is pet insurance, which is worthwhile and really does cover a lot of things.
Right.
I think it's through the ASPCA, but I could be wrong. Could be through the American Kennel Club.
Right.
And although I don't have any pet insurance for Prince, I would get one for his friend.
Right. Okay.
I would get a policy.
Right.
Yeah.
And now I know that there had been talk of trying to get legislation that would make service dogs available to veterans mandatory through the VA. I don't think that's gone anywhere because there would be a tremendous cost associated with it. Because what people don't realize is that when you receive services from the VA, they cover all costs. So when you have hearing aids, they cover the cost of the hearing aids, the cost of the tips, the cost of the batteries. It's all included. Now, if all of a sudden service dogs are required for any veteran that needs it, then where's the line? Do they pay for veterans or veterinarian services, for food, for the dog bed? And I think Congress was a little bit shy about trying to figure that out and not really want to getting into that. The other thing that's sorely lacking here, and we sort of touched on it before, is that there's no national standard for training a service dog.
There is an organization called Assistance Dogs International, and they certify different organizations as meeting their criteria for training a service dog. Mm-hmm. It's a great resource to start. But a lot of good organizations are not part of it for a variety of reasons. For one, it can take up to 10 years to qualify. Okay. But that's a place to look.
And that would be, once you get an understanding of their criteria that they use to certify, it would be sort of a model for you to apply to other organizations, even though they're not certified.
Right.
You could say, okay, if they're doing this, this, and this, then they're doing a good job.
Right. Yeah.
So it's sort of a baseline. But really, I just think the problem with it is also, too, we see often sometimes at the retreat, people will say it's a service dog, and you get a little bit closer look at it, and there's no chance that this dog is a service dog. It's more of a comfort dog, and it's not something that we allow at the retreat. We have a very special association with a Dog's Day Out or a Pup's Valley down in Haymarket, and they will board the dog for the family at no cost.
Oh, nice.
Which is really, really sweet. But we get dogs that come in, and they're just not service dogs. They don't appear to be trained at all.
Well, I think it's important, too, to note that under the Americans with Disabilities Act, you are able to train your own service dog.
Right.
And you don't have to have a vest for your dog. I always have Prince in a vest when we're going somewhere out in public. It's just easier.
Yeah.
It's the way that you can tell a service dog from a pet is by behavior.
Yeah, what they're doing for we had a meeting with Sonny from Caring Angels a long time ago when this whole sort of came up. Is this a service dog? It's not. And basically said the only thing you can really ask is, oh, it's a service dog. What tasks does that dog perform for you?
Correct.
And then they should be able to tell you exactly what the dog does for them. Sometimes you get people who say, well, I have it's certified dog. Well, you got a card from somewhere in the mail.
Anyone can go on Amazon.com and buy a vest and put service dog tags on it and insist that you have a service dog. However, even with a real service dog, the dog has to meet certain criteria to go out in public. Mm-hmm. And you can't fake the ability of a dog to go into a restaurant and curl up under the table and for people to, when you get up and leave, say, oh, I didn't even realize the dog was in here.
Yeah.
As happened to us a couple weeks ago. You can't fake that.
Right. And that service dog should be doing that instead of sitting up with their nose against the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is that most people are reluctant to challenge that service dog status. Certainly a restaurant, I don't think your dog is a service dog, even though it has a vest. And then it gets into a big hoop-de-doo about, oh, you don't support veterans and, it just gets out of control. So restaurants, they're not going to challenge anybody.
Right. But they can kick you out if your dog gets sick in the restaurant or has some kind of bathroom accident or is barking.
Right.
Even if it's a real service dog, businesses don't have to tolerate that behavior. That's also in the ADA.
Okay.
More likely is I have a lot of problems with Uber. And there have been times when Uber's been really good about it, and there have been times when they just don't care. Mm. But
now, are you talking about the driver or the company?
Well, it's kind of both. When Uber started really getting going, they weren't teaching the drivers about service dogs and the requirement to transport them. And if they refused to take you because you had a service dog, you had a remedy through Uber where you could get a refund, and they paid you a $25 finder's fee for finding a bad driver, and then they were off the platform within 24 hours. Mm. And then when we had the pandemic, they were just so desperate for drivers that they'd take anybody. Right. And more often than not, I would be refused, and I'd be late to appointments at the VA hospital or, and so it is a little problematic, but I always say to them, I give them, if they've never had a service dog in their car before, which is something I ask, I give them one of Prince's business cards, which has his photo on it, and also another card that explains all the ADA around dogs. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, I get it. There are people who get in this car and then their dog scratches the back of the seat and they say it's a service dog. And, I understand that. Here are the questions you can ask. You're allowed to ask. Is this your service dog? Mm-hmm. Not your mother's service dog.
Yeah, right.
Not your cousin's service dog. Not your older brother's dog. Mm. And then, what tasks does this dog perform for you? And you need to have two. And as I explained to the Uber drivers, in the hope that educating them will make their lives easier and my life easier, I said that the task has to be something that the dog is trained to do. A dog has to be trained to do that. So if you say, well, when I pet my dog, my blood pressure falls.
Well, that's no training.
If you pet any dog, your blood pressure is going to fall. Unless they're chewing your arm off, your blood pressure is going to go down. That's not a training issue.
Right.
Or I just feel better.
That's a comfort dog.
Right, yeah. And those dogs have no right to public access.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's issues around that. And that's, I think, also where the VA struggles in, saying, oh, okay, you can bring your dog in, but your dog can't come in. You're okay. Oh, no, not that one. The only time I've seen them not admit a service dog was when that dog was filthy. Because there are standards that you need to maintain for public access. And I try to take that really seriously because I figure if it's my right to have Prince with me, then it's also my responsibility to make sure he is presentable.
Sure.
And not looking all torn up,
Yeah, yeah. So as we sort of wind this up, what's the one thing that you want listeners to know about service dogs and the benefit of a service dog to a veteran?
I want to say that having a service dog totally changed my life. And I hear that from other veterans also. I'm much more independent. We are a team. The two of us, we're dependent upon each other, and we work together as a team. And we are a self-sufficient team. And he's taught me that. I can do more than I think I can. And I can go just a little bit more. And, he's like a coach,
Sure.
But at the same time, he is constantly assessing me. And when he's decided I've had it enough, he shuts me down, It's just like, no, the walk-in's here. Let's go. But the other thing I would say is that if you come across a veteran with a service dog, it's fine to greet the veteran and maybe ask some questions. Never speak directly to the dog. Now, I've encountered people in the VA hospital. We're walking down the hall. I'm like, you are gorgeous. And I say, oh, thank you. I think my dog's pretty good looking, too. And they're like, yeah, okay. I was talking about you. So how about this dog? There are people who think they're entitled to distract him and touch him, and that is dangerous.
Yeah.
Not because he's going to bite you.
No, it takes him off of task.
Right. So it changes his focus.
Yeah.
And I actually had a person read out loud where his jacket said, I'm a service dog who's working. Please don't pet me. The woman read those words out loud and then said, oh, that's so cute, and started petting him. And I was like,
are you a moron or what?
You can't even pretend you don't speak English or that you're illiterate. You read it out loud.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Should we talk about the boobs?
No.
Okay.
So, yeah, you might as well now. We can't leave it at that.
No. Okay. I heard someone make this comparison about what you can say or do with a service dog when you see another service dog, not your own service dog.
Yeah.
And they said basically fill in boobs for service dog in the sentence.
Yeah.
And see if it's okay to say it. Right. Can I take a picture of your boobs?
No.
Can I pet your boobs? I like those boobs.
So there you go. That's once you do that, you can see it limits what your conduct will be when you're around a service dog.
Yes.
That's a great way to look at it. Well, listen, thank you very much for bringing Prince out and coming out and talking to us today about the service dog. It was a lot of fun. And I think very informative for our listeners. So thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or comments, you can reach me at podcast@willingwarriors.org. We'll have another episode next Monday. Until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.